Okay, folks, I'll feature a little bit for a moment. Hi there. Hi there, Dan.
Gary, go for it.
Okay, we've been naughty boys. Well, I have anyway, and I've been
Very naughty boy.
I've been buying some things and setting some guitars up. So I've bought my guitars round, both of them, which have been set up by Pedro Martins in Brighton. He's a fantastic guy, very reasonably priced. I'm really pleased with the setups that I've got.
Pedro's a man. No job too small.
So he has given me some new iron gear pickups for my Epiphone 335, which we're going to test out. And he's also set up my Gibson J45 acoustic, which we're probably not going to look at today. Because the idea that I wanted to share with us today was about getting the sounds that I need for various things. So I wanted to show you quickly before the lesson begins. This pedal board, which is the pedal board which I use. You can see it's got the... It's not all
we need some
down.
Velcro there.
It's got the compressor on there. It's got the overdrive on there. It's got a flanger. It's got the GE7 equalizer. It's got delay, chorus, tuner and everything else on there. So I've brought this along, and Dan hopefully is going to show me how to get some of the different sounds that we can get with my guitars, if that's okay.
Let's give it a go. So let's move these pedals into erstwhile position. So as you saw from Gary's pedal board, it's like the classic sort of setup, the weekend warrior setup.
Certainly is, yeah.
You know, not overly sort of small, not huge either, but a decent array of sounds, which is not going to break the bank, especially if you buy it a bit at a time, and it's going to give you a good selection of sounds.
Yeah. So
in the modulation department, as Gary mentioned, we've got a chorus pedal. Now this is the TC Corona chorus. It's a decent chorus. You can download the tone prints from the TC website, so that's cool. We've also got a Boss TU3 tuner, chromatic tuner. Is that a TU3 or a TU2, sir?
TU2.
Oh, TU2. So TU2, the industry standard. We've got a Boss delay and also a Boss equalizer. The Corona chorus, the delay and the equalizer in the loop. The delay and the chorus to keep them sounding clean when you're using distortion on the amp in particular. Realise if you're going into a clean or cleanish amp, you could reconfigure the order of the pedals to get around this.
Yep.
The equalizer gives you a solo boost, so that's very, very handy. And although some amps have a sort of built-in set boost for solos, every situation, every room, every band is different, so it's nice to be able to tweak it just exactly. And the equalizer allows you to roll off a little bit of bottom end if you want to, or roll off a little bit of high end, whilst increasing the volume and getting a more sculpted solo tone.
Certainly gives me some variation, because I do have the boost on my amp. But sometimes it's too much, and the equalizer fits in between, all this kind of thing. It gives me a bit more variety to work with.
That's right. I mean, the boost on the amp gives you an increase in gain. There are some amps too that will do that and give you an increase in volume. But it's nice to have the tweakability. If I play in a 3-piece, if I have too much volume, I end up, walking all over the bass and the drums, and it makes my rhythm guitar sound like it's a distant memory.
Yes.
Whereas if I'm playing with another guitar player and he's obviously on my frequencies as I'm on his, to get over that in a live situation, if the band isn't mic'd up, I need more volume.
Yep.
So it depends who you're playing with, what the setup is. In a 3-piece, you might only need a little gentle nudge, a little boost. And if you're through a PA system with a mic in front of your amp or something like that, a PA system's far more sensitive.
Yeah.
Than the human ear in a room. So while you might want a room-filling sound to boost your solos through and really cut through the mix and cut above everybody else, you may not need nearly as much if you're playing in the same outfit and you're going through a PA system.
Yeah.
So having the ability to tweak that is, for me personally, is very, very important. Through the front end, we have classic Jim Dunlop wah-wah, We've got the Boss CS3 compressor. Again, it's an industry standard compressor. Will offer you all the sustain and compression you could possibly desire. We've got the Boss OD3 overdrive. And I'm going to show you how to use that in a couple of different ways, depending on what you want to do with it. And we've also got a classic old 80s Yamaha flanger.
Yep. Yeah, it's good. It's a good bit of kit, I think. I'm glad it's still on there, actually.
Yep. Still there after all these years.
Yeah. So my question to you, Dan, if that's okay, is here's all my gear. I'm playing a gig soon. We've got about 6-7 songs we're hoping to be playing. And I wonder if you could have a look at the different configuration for each of those tunes, just for the sound.
Okay, what do you want to start?
Could we start with All Right Now by Free?
All Right Now by Free. Okay, so I better tell the folks, although they probably know already, about your Custom 24. So this is a PRS Custom 24 from 2015. We've got the 8515 pickups, which are a sort of kind of mid-output. They nestle around about the sort of 8586, 8.7 sort of DC output. We realise that's just a rough guide, but the guide it still is. So the bridge is wound slightly hotter than the neck pickup. With this guitar, we've got the bridge pickup in position 1, bridge pickup with neck split.
Yep.
So in other words, the neck acting as a single coil. In the middle, it's the two humbuckers on together, like the classic central position of a Les Paul. In position 4, I believe it's the two inner coils, which give you the most sort of stratty kind of sound.
Yep. Sounds right to me.
Yeah, it's definitely got Fender kind of flavour. And then lastly, position 5, we've got the neck. Now, some of this will be useful or not so useful depending on how you run your rig. So we're going to run a couple of different ways. We're going to show you how you can run it and see what you think.
Okay. Cheers.
Now, no problem. Now, I do most of my sort of sounds from the guitar, I'll be honest, and I don't use overdrive pedals. I do use a clean boost into my amp to hit the front end harder, and both my amps have 2 master volumes, so there's a boost there for solos.
Yeah.
So in terms of gain stages, both of my amps have at least a couple of different gain stages you can use. My Cornford has the clean channel, then there's stage 1 and 2 on the overdrive side, so that's an increase in gain as we go from stage 1 to stage 2. So essentially, it's like a 3-channel amp, but then you can boost each channel as well, or each different sound.
That's nice, isn't it? Yeah.
It's very handy. Yeah. So if you're looking at it, technically there's 6 sounds from one amplifier, but essentially it's 3 sounds, but at 2 different volume levels. Now, what I do when I'm using my amplifier, especially if I'm using the lower gain sound, I can use that for all sorts of things.
Yeah.
From almost clean through to, surprisingly gainy.
Okay.
It sort of takes you from sort of edge of breakup, Beatles, 60s kind of sort of edge of breakup sounds through to AC/DC and Van Halen 1.
Yeah, okay.
If you're using a clean boost through the front. It's a very, very versatile channel. The gain boosted version of that channel has much more drive. It's like you've got an amp which is already driving and then you're going to put an overdrive pedal on top. So it's much gainier. As a result, I would argue it's got a slightly more modern sound. It's slightly more bottom end. A lot more gain on tap as well.
Yeah.
When you add more gain, as you'll know if you've been watching this channel or others which talk about tone and things, the more gain you add in, the less sensitive the controls on your guitar are. So when you're using very little gain, when you back off the volume, it makes quite a big difference to the volume, and it makes a big difference to the gain. As the sounds get gainier, when you back off your volume, you really don't lose much volume. But you can sort of bleed out some of the sort of gain. So the way I work is if I'm using a drive sound, I might have my guitar volume on 5 or something like that, or possibly lower, not usually more than about 5 or so for drive sounds. and that'll give me my crunch. I'll then hit my second master volume. I'll get a nice volume jump, and depending on the level of gain I want in my signal for a solo, if I'm doing a country rock solo, I might leave it where it is.
Yeah.
If I'm doing an out-and-out rock-tastic solo and I need plenty of gain for those Larry licks, then I'll wind up the volume on my guitar, therefore putting more gain into the signal. What you've got to remember is on a clean sound, your volume on your guitar does what it says on the tin. It's a volume control. The level goes up, the level comes down. Wax on, wax off. When it comes to using gain, it acts a lot more like a gain control.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and the more gain you have, the more it acts like a gain control, the less it acts like a volume control because of the lack of sensitivity of the compression in the gain itself.
Yeah, okay.
So let's work at getting some sounds here. So we've got a humbucker sound. So for all right now, we're going to go...
There's the verse, riff, then there's the chorus.
Yep.
And then there's the solo, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, what I tend to do is for the verse and chorus, I use the same sort of sound. Now, to start with, I'm going to go into a clean amp, and then I'm going to show you what I would do with a dirty amp.
Okay. Yep, cool.
So, got a bit of reverb on the amp. Don't know if you can hear that. Now, I'm going to start with the tone on 10. Everybody does. I'm going to hit the drive. Well, that's okay. I'm going to put a little bit more top end there. A little bit more treble, folks. Now that's with my tone on 10 on the guitar.
Yep.
Now that's okay.
Yeah.
That sort of works. So what I often do to give me more room to move, because if you're on 10 on your guitar, on 10 on your tone, there's nowhere to go. You know, you can't get the sound brighter without fiddling with other stuff. So I tend to roll my guitar tone back.
Yeah.
Usually it nestles at around the sort of 6, between sort of 5 and 6, 6.5.
Yeah.
For my regular sounds. Not that. Sorry, wrong chord. So at 10, it's not hugely different. It's just a little bit warmer.
Yeah, gotcha.
With the tone rolled back. Also, if I was doing, say, things where I wanted it cleaner, say I went to the single coil sounds, if I left the tone on 5, I might not have quite enough chime in there.
Yeah.
So I might wind the tone up to 10.
Gotcha.
To bring back my chime. Hence I would work it like that. So using the OD3, I've got the volume at around about 10 o'clock. I've got the gain at about 2 o'clock. And I've got the tone at around about 12.
Yeah.
Going straight into a clean amp. So, I mean, there are better ways of getting this sound.
Yeah.
You know, if you use that through an amp with a bit of hair on it, it's going to sound different. But I'd also keep my volume backed off to about half, maybe. Now, there's several reasons why I do this. For one, you don't get as much gain in the signal. So it's not as much of a mess. It makes your guitar easier to control. It makes your guitar quieter.
Yeah.
All things, if you go and see an amateur gig, if people haven't got this stuff under their fingers, it's, you know, sometimes the difference between the band that's polished and the band that's not.
Yeah.
You know, so it makes the whole guitar more manageable. The other thing too is that most guitars, especially fairly sort of modern designs like the PRS Custom 24, have a treble bleed in them. Now, I have guitars, most of mine with treble bleeds, some without. And all it is a capacitor. And this capacitor goes across a couple of the tags on the volume, I believe, and it bleeds out the bottom end, leaving the treble behind. What it means is when the volume is all the way up, the sound is thicker and more bass heavy than when it's backed off.
Yeah.
Now, there isn't a massive difference that you can hear, but you'll hear it on certain sounds and maybe on the higher string.
Yeah.
But
more sustain. Yeah.
Yeah, but as it bleeds the bass off, it cleans the sound up.
Okay.
Ideally, I think guitars sound best when the treble bleed is quite sort of progressive. And so you almost don't realise it's there, but it's just allowing you to get a little more clarity as you back the volume off. Very important when you're using gain. So, I've got the volume about half. Tone backed off. Now, what does that do for me? Well, for one, I've got room to move when it comes to the solo. I could hit the equaliser and get a volume jump. I may decide that's enough, and that gives me enough. It's hitting the power amp harder, working that a little bit harder, and if I've got my amp wound up to stage volume, sometimes that's enough. That gives you enough extra sustain and extra oomph. Even though you haven't touched your volume knob and increased the levels of gain, you hit the power amp harder, and that's doing its job. In fact, that's quite a good sound. If you feel, and that does actually sound pretty good to me, if you feel that's doing what it should, then that's absolutely fine. That'll work for you. If you want more juice, you have it on tap.
Yeah.
And you may even find that for certain bits, you want it like that bit, where you've got two strings kind of clashing together, but that's part of the solo, that you want it cleaner for that bit, but when you do the bends... Now I maxed it out there, and the sustain was
good, yeah, because my notes were dying last time I was rehearsing with that a little bit.
Right.
On the top ones.
Remembering that this turns into a gain control when you use overdrive is all important, because it's always a balance between getting the guitar under control and also getting out of the guitar what you want.
Okay.
You know, if you don't use that volume control at the right moments, you can find yourself robbed of the extra gain and sustain that you want and need.
Okay.
Conversely, you can find yourself, fighting a runaway train.
Gotcha.
If you haven't reeled it in when you want to. At the end of solos, the end of phrases, when you want to tidy it up, you might come to the end of the solo. Whatever it is. Backing that volume off, then it's going to tidy it up. Then you go back to your rhythm sound.
Right, perfect. Thank you. Yeah,
so that's one way of using it. The other way of using it, and I won't go through all of the whys and wherefores, we've heard those now. If you went to an amp sound that's maybe got a little bit of hair on it, so it's not particularly meaty, all of the other rules apply. But some guitarists run an amp like this, maybe an old Marshall or something like that, just on the edge of breakup. Obviously, all it means is that now your overdrive on top may start to compress a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
So, reeling in the gain might... So, too much gain on top of one another gives a rather nasty compressed or kind of sound to the note. So, this is the sound you're starting with. Now I've backed off the gain on the pedal. Now it sounds nice.
Good. Yeah, it sounds really good.
So you have to be a little bit aware of that.
Yeah.
If you're using the sounds in the amp, so we're going to go now.
That's what I always have done up to now, I suppose.
Me too. I mean, I'm an amp distortion kind of a guy.
Yeah.
I think part of it is my logic.
Yeah.
My logic is, why am I going to lash a couple of grand on a lovely amp and then run it clean?
Yeah.
I mean, there are some lovely amps, don't get me wrong, like some of the Fender stuff, the Two Rocks, the Boogies, that have amazingly lush, clean sounds. So I can understand why people do it.
Yeah.
But for me, I tend to use more of the gainy sounds.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for an amp that rocks but has a good clean sound to boot. But I'm trying to cover all the bases of what people might use, you know, how they might run their amps, how they might use their amps and pedals. So here I'll set up a fairly sort of meaty sound.
Yeah.
Now this is my go-to sound on the Marshall. This is a JVM2. It's a high gain 12-inch speaker, 1x12 combo. It does a load of other sounds as well, as you've just seen. But this is my go-to sound, which is like a hot-rodded JCM 800. I'll roll back my volume. Cleans up considerably. If I change the single coil pickups and crank up the tone, I can play country on it, no problem.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So I can get it to go almost clean. Go to the full-on humbuckers, however. Gives a pretty juicy tone.
Spot on, yeah.
So if I was using that kind of sound, now in terms of effects, if I'm playing an older record and I want to keep the originality in it,
yeah,
what I'm not going to do is lash a load of delay and stuff on it.
Yeah, okay.
There are times I think with songs where that works really well. I've always played All Right Now fairly straight.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's got such kind of punctuated rhythm, delay and things like that. It might not sound so great with it.
Okay.
People may beg to differ, but that's my take. So I could use a sound like this. And really, it's just how far up do I want the volume control?
It's how much gain you got.
Yeah. And again, if I want to crank it up for sustain factors.
That's loads of sustain.
How much do you want?
You wouldn't use any compression on that then?
No.
No.
I mean, I've got a delay going on here. Gary's delay, which I said.
Cool.
Now, if I was using a sort of a delay under most circumstances, that sort of setting would be kind of like an always-on go-to delay setting.
Yeah.
So if I wanted a more modern sound with a bit more kind of air in it, maybe, than just reverb. In fact, let's get a bit more of the old feedback going on, I think.
Yeah. Feedback. There you go.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
We've got a little halo around the sound.
Nice description.
So that I would use a delay possibly like that for a lot of different stuff. But if I was doing retro stuff, I would probably be period correct as best I could.
Yeah.
So in the tones, I realise it's a compromise, but with the effects, they don't really have delay pedals back then, so it can sometimes sound a little bit out of place.
Cool.
Unless you're looking to completely reinvent the wheel and sort of modernise the sound.
That's cool for all right now. The other songs we're playing, and bear in mind, this is always very off the cuff, isn't it, our lessons? So.
Incredibly. More than ever tonight, I'm afraid.
The next one on the bill is Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. Is that something you can...
Right.
Or should we just flick through and go to something else?
So probably with Dreams, I might have a low gain sound.
Just F and G. So a little bit of gain, but not.
You could even, what I've got there is quite a low gain sound.
Yeah.
I've gone for the bridge humbucker with neck split.
Yeah, okay.
It sounds quite nice. The reason why is because sometimes with the modern clean sounds, they're great kind of for funk or for when you want real sparkle and chime.
Yeah.
But as you can hear,
It's
quite clinical.
Yeah.
Quite pristine, some of them.
Gets quite top heavy, doesn't it?
Whereas when there's a little bit of grit in there,
yeah,
I don't know, I think sometimes that sounds quite nice.
Yeah.
And you could add a little bit of delay.
Yeah, that kind of captures a little bit of its essence, doesn't it? It's got this kind of like solo at the beginning that starts on the 10th fret here. Down, 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 down.
That's not the right nose, but I know the one you mean.
7, 4 and 2.
So you could introduce a compressor.
For that, yeah?
Ooh. Well.
Yeah. Just to make those notes hang on a bit more and kind of cut through. Okay, cool.
So using the
I'll do
compressor, that was actually a better example of the whole Gilmour thing, really.
Yeah.
So you're getting a lower gain sound to kind of compete sustain-wise with a higher gain sound, but without the gain.
Yeah. Great. So that's really good. I'll play around with that. So compression and delay probably. Yeah.
Something like Dreams, it's quite an atmospheric song.
Yeah.
Now, although I said earlier about something like All Right Now, a bit of verb's probably all you want with that, and about maintaining some of the period correctness. This is true, I believe, but I think discernment is required as well. If you need to bring on the ambience, you play a song like Jimi Hendrix's Little Wing, you can play it just with a bit of verb, for example. That's fine. But if you want to, adding in a bit of delay.
Yeah, very effective.
Very
atmospheric.
Effective. So you have to be discerning.
Yeah, okay.
And decide what's going to work best for you.
The next one's a very quick thing. There's a keyboard guy who's also the main singer, and he pulls the keyboard out for this. we're doing Sweetest Thing by U2. And the other guitarist is covering a lot of kind of riffs and stuff like that. So I'm literally playing along with the keyboard.
So what are you playing at the moment?
I'm playing just very clean sound. I think I use a little bit of delay on that one. I'm just do.
What are the chords?
C.
Show me, Gary.
Okay.
Show me.
So, is that okay? Am I out of the way for everyone? That's it. So I'm going.
Okay.
Like that kind of thing. I've not messed around with the sound at all yet.
Yeah, I mean, with something like that,
Just to help the keyboard along or something.
what you might consider is moving the part to a register, maybe where you can get more control over the notes because you're using less open strings.
Yeah.
That might help.
Gotcha.
So I'm just doing bar chords instead.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
In terms of the delay factor, you could do maybe a longer.
See how that sounds.
So that's quite cool, isn't it?
That is really cool, yeah.
If you want to make it super twanky, you could bring in a...
It's very edge-like. Or do we refer to him in other ways? I think
the rim.
The rim. Oh, that's nice. A bit chimey with the chorus. Yeah. Vibe of the song. Nice. I like it.
So all I did then was I moved it further up to positions up here, so the 8th fret, and a couple of other shapes, and then went into arpeggio. So halfway through the verse, just to change it up, we go from this to this.
Sound good. As long as it's not stepping on the keyboard, we'll have to see how that goes. Yeah.
So there we're actually using one of the Edge's tricks of playing against the delay.
Wizardry.
Isn't it?
I love it.
And then you got something that kind of works.
Yeah, okay. So a bit of chorus and a little bit more. We added a little bit more time, so we extended the length of it. Yeah. Nice.
Okay.
Okay. In the second part, I've detuned the E string down to a D, so we might need to just talk about this. And we do the rocky, heavier version of On a Plane. So I guess I just use the amp overdrive.
I think probably if you're talking the sort of Nirvana stuff.
Yeah, it's just D.
Now, when I was called to do sort of heavier things in that regard, what I would tend to do is where I would normally back my volume off and make it all tidy, I'd kind of do the opposite.
Chuck it all on. Number 10.
Yeah. Because I used to do, what's that one, Creep by Radiohead.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted the guitar to have less control about it.
Yeah.
I wanted the guitar to fight me a bit.
Yeah.
So when it came to the chorus... So sometimes you can also use the wild, out of controlness of single notes. Obviously, doesn't make such a massive, horrible racket as crashing through loads of notes when you've got gain. They're just not. They're not going to compress as much. They're not going to be as noisy and as in your face.
Yeah, okay.
But sometimes there's those moments when you want it in your face.
Yeah. On a plane will be that. Yeah.
Right. So
it's got very little dynamics in the song. It's less dynamics than Creep, I think.
Yeah.
It's on the whole time, pretty much. Yeah.
But I mean, you can use that sort of thing because sometimes I find if I'm doing that more kind of sort of roughed up kind of sound, I have to rough my playing up.
Yeah.
And sort of take away some of the tidiness that exists that I've worked so hard to achieve.
I don't have this problem.
and then actually input back in sort of the,
Okay, cool.
It's a bit like years ago, I remember watching like how they made Shrek, the movie Shrek with all the animation. They said we actually got it where it looked too real.
Yeah.
We actually had to remove some of the real. Yeah. It's the same sort of thing with the playing, when forced to play that kind of stuff, if you want to play with any authenticity, you've got to kind of like think like Kirk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Kirk.
Should we have a quick look at the Epiphone?
Let's do that,
and its
shall
new
we?
pickups.
Let's do that. This I am excited by immensely.
Yeah, so here she blows.
What she said.
Epiphone 335 there. And there are the lovely new Iron Gear pickups, which come in at about £70 for the pair.
You might want to tighten up your input jack. It's a bit loose.
Oh, okay, yeah. Do that.
You need to unscrew that and make sure it's all.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. Thank you.
It's okay.
More than get loads of advice from Dan here. You see.
Well,
it's not just the playing.
I try and stop problems before they happen.
There you go. Yes, thank you very much. I'll have a look at that. I'll take it back. Might need a little tune. It's an open G. I might have to show you what I'm doing, I guess.
I think you might. Oh dear, I've got a strap fail.
Oh no.
You ever had this? The amount of kids I teach and they're like, my strap's all over the shop, man.
There we go.
How,
I blame Pedro. I don't really, Pedro. Thanks for this. It's a really great job.
Okay.
What's his business? So we can give it a quick shout out. Guitar Repairs Brighton, I think.
Yeah, we'll do that search and it'll all come up.
He's in Portland Road in Hove. Do you want
It's an open G.
Yes. Sorry, Dan.
Sorry. Whoop.
Have a little play around first with the settings. Yeah. Yes. And single coils as well. You can split them, can't you, by pulling the...
Oh, yeah, you can. I forgot about that little feature. So, yes, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I'll show you what I'm playing on Jumpin Jack Flash and Tumbling Dice. For the folks back home, obviously, when you've got a PRS, you're thinking, well, why is Gary gone and why is he using another guitar in any shape or form? What's he doing? But to open tune a PRS because of the drum system, it's floating and you detune one string, every string goes out. It's a total nightmare. So this is for open tunings.
Finding you tuning.
Thank you. So for Tumbling Dice, it's got this.
That, I think, is your sound right there, you know. You're straight into a clean amp. Your drive and tone on the OD3 at about 12 o'clock.
Good.
So it's Bruce pickups slightly rolled off on the tone, not maxed out on the volume.
Yeah,
there's your tone. You
That's
see so many tones people think are really
Magic.
complicated to get, but often if you've got a really good drive sound, like especially like a classic drive sound and a higher gain drive sound, if you a lot of your sound will be around the volume pot somewhere, whether it's maxed out on 10.
I'm running through the overdrive pedal. Should I? Would you again go through use the drive of the amp? Probably.
I mean, that's a pretty good sound. If I got that sound for that song, I'd probably be set.
Yeah, I know.
If you want to use a low gain sound, try that.
Just to try it out.
I need to crank up the volume a bit, maybe, just to get a bit more gain out of it.
Full there.
There it is.
For Jumpin Jack Flash, it's got this.
Sounds bang on the money to me.
Good, doesn't it?
Perfect.
Fun. Okay, well that was quick.
a lot of the times, unless you're after a sound that's, you're trying to really pinpoint the sound on a record.
Yeah.
I used to teach a guy years and years ago, and his dad played in a band. In fact, they're still going strong. I'll give them a shout out. Their name is Tonight Matthew. They gig a lot around
Tonight Matthew.
They gig a lot around the South Coast and in sort of Brighton area. And they're a very traditional sort of 60s band. They aim to get the sounds as close as possible. And he used to gig using mostly I think it was a sort of a humbucker single Strat to get a lot of the sounds.
Yeah. And
then he would have a Lone Star Mesa Boogie Lone Star amp and a splattering of effects. And he managed to get out of that amp, as far as I understand, all of the sounds that he wanted. And he was really quite fussy about getting things as period correct as possible. Sometimes I do think that effects, I feel almost you can put effects into eras.
Yeah.
Tape delay, well, that's very much something of the 50s and sort of 60s,
Yeah.
In the 60s, reverb, and 50s, well, certainly in the 50s, reverb was usually Fender Spring Reverb. It was a guitar amp.
Yeah.
In the 60s, they started to develop plate reverbs in studios. Then as time went on, as we went into the 70s, you had delays in the form of the analog delays rather than tape delays. So Roland had the Space Echo, which was one of the first.
Yes.
In the 80s, you had the Boss
very
DM3.
desirable, aren't they, those Space Echoes?
Absolutely, yeah. I've seen a few from guys that I've known who've had them on sale on probably eBay and Facebook and things. But, you almost look at every era and go, well, okay, like 50s, tremolo, reverb, tape delay. 60s, wah, fuzz.
Yeah.
Those were really the big deals, weren't they?
Yeah.
Treble boosters.
Yeah.
Octave splitters as well in the 60s. 70s, phasers. You had a lot of phasing, and then eventually sort of flangers and things like that started coming out in the 70s.
Fuzz.
You had some things like there's a company called Colour Sound that did like fuzz wahs and fuzz volumes and things like that. Where they mixed two effects in one pedal.
Right, yeah.
As we went into the 80s, it was the digital domain. It was digital reverbs, choruses, flangers, things like the sort of infamous delay units and things that gave us pristine delays.
Yeah.
And then people now, you know,
Helix and all that kind of stuff.
Helix and the head rush, all that sort of thing. And
Capers,
people have now kind of managed to fit some of this amazing technology which once took up loads and loads of room in a rack, and they've put it in little pedal, you know, things like the Strymon Timeline, which has now been going for 6 years. 2012 that came out. You've got all sorts of things like that which offer you an amazing array of effects.
Yeah.
In a tiny, tiny package, you know, for probably a fraction of what some of that other stuff cost at the time.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
You know, so sometimes when you look at the different eras and the different sounds which people got in different eras, you know, some of the 60s sort of guitar sounds like the Beatles, you know, where it's sort of Rickenbackers and Gretches and things, the sound can be definitely not a normal Strat or Tele single coil. It may be a humbucker, but it's quite a wiry sounding humbucker.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can kind of get, it's not perfect, but you can kind of imitate it a little bit using single coil sounds or a coil tap to thin your humbucker sound out. You know, then you get people like Paul Kossoff from Free who are using Les Pauls, you know, Les Pauls and Marshall Plexis.
Yeah.
So you're at the opposite end of the spectrum, this big fat tone.
Yeah.
You know, so you just have to sort of use your brain a little bit. You know, as we went into the 80s, people started loading up their guitar sounds with a lot more effects.
Yeah.
You know, Steve Lukather in the 80s, great player though he is, he used to ladle it on there. You know, he loved grease, as he put it on his guitar.
I like that, yeah. You want to have a play around, put it into normal tuning?
Oh, go on then. Oof.
There you go.
Have you got a plectrum there?
I've got yours.
Splendid. Suits you, sir. Oh, sorry, I'm just having... Am I having strap fail? No. Okay. So let's give it a go. Give these pickups a bash. Very warm. Nice. Let's try some sounds. Very, very slender indeed. Then we've got my go-to sound. Is this going to be too much?
It works. Works for me. Sounds good.
Pretty good. I ain't going to knock that.
Thanks very much for everything today, Dave.
No worries, mate. Always a pleasure.